Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Infinisation. And we're specifically going to talk about the managing the interruption, the disruption to a Dungeons and Dragons game, that the initial event that creates an infinite ally applies to a Dungeons and Dragons table, and how you manage that as a Dragon Master, and concerns for dungeon masters as well. All right, let's jump into this. So how do we manage this? So first of all, Infinisation, what the heck are you talking about, Scott? So I'll give you a quick definition. So Quest from the Infinite Staircase comes out, and Quest from the Infinite Staircase gives a lore mechanic, the Infinite Staircase itself, and assures Dungeon Masters and Dragon Masters that it is possible to bring a player character into the IRL. So once you bring a player character into the IRL, it ceases to be a player character. It becomes an infinite ally, this helpmate for a human adult, right? You, the actual Dungeons and Dragons player, the Dragon Master, okay? That's a huge change. It's massive. It's a really big deal. No question. It's a really big deal. It is the most important thing to happen in Dungeons and Dragons ever. I think it even trumps. It trumps the creation of the game itself. It transcends what Gary Gygax accomplished originally on February 7th. And so this new era where where adult humans can have an imaginary friend is now here. Now, all of this is very complex, so if you're like, wait, I still don't get it, that's okay. Playlist link below. There's a whole video that explains Infinisation and Infinite Ally. So it's all there. Okay. Link below if you want more detail. All right, but you're ready to go. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the Infinite Ally from the perspective of what it is. People are saying, oh, Scott, it's an imaginary friend for adults. Well, first of all, yes, asterisk, okay? So, first of all, don't laugh at me. Laugh at Ryan Reynolds and literally 1,000 people who made the 2024 movie If. This is the entire point of the movie If. The entire point of the movie If. Ryan Reynolds, which you all love because you just made him, king of Hollywood through Deadpool, right? So if I'm laughable, Ryan Reynolds is laughable. Yeah, me and Ryan Reynolds are essentially the same guy. I'm a little more handsome. This is not a laughable concept. This is openly discussed in American culture, right? In fact, the 2024 movie If's entire point is that adults should have an imaginary friend. Now, is an infinite ally an imaginary friend? That's a great question. So let me explain that. Okay. So let me give you the hard answer to that. Okay. So yes, asterisk. Okay. So when I was 4 years old, this is 1974. So first of all, you guys don't know this, but I was a skateboarder in high school. Actually, I was a skateboarder from the time I was 4 years old until I was about 28. Okay. And I loved it, and it gave me a huge amount of risk tolerance, like literally physical risk tolerance, and it gave me a lot of courage, and I really loved it. Right, it was powerful, and it's something I really passionately loved. So, this is interesting. Let's get there. Okay, so one of the ways this started was my parents gave me a skateboard when I was 4 years old. And I was terrible at it, and I constantly fell off, right? And so my dad made a razor scooter in 1974. He actually, he had tools and like bolts and actually could do things with tangible things. And I love my dad and my mom, the two, because actually my dad built me this like jank razor scooter, but my mother, would like patch me up and literally, kiss the boo-boos when I would come in, falling because I'd fallen on the asphalt again, you know. And so I was a loved child, right? But my dad, you know, bolted together this silly little scooter, and he made like a handle so that I could stay on the literally, I think this thing cost like $5 and was bought at Boscov's. This originally the skateboard, which I constantly fell off, and then my dad just went to the hardware store and bought like the parts and jury rigged, and I made a razor scooter, you know, 30 years before anybody knew what a razor scooter was, right? But back then they had scooters, and so I loved this skateboard, right? And he built it up so that it would, you know, so that I could ride it standing up, right? At 4 years old, right? And this is a big deal because it gave me balance, right? And also, since I was 4 years old, I had absolutely no fear of skateboarders. And by the way, skateboards. By the way, if you want to be a good skateboard, that's what you got to get rid of. You got to get rid of fear. You got to get rid of fear. You got to get rid of the fear of the wobble. You got to get rid of fear of pain. You got to get rid of fear of injury. Like, skateboarding is fearlessness, right? And it's a big deal. Okay, so my dad makes this jank razor scooter for me when I'm 4 years old. All right, that was a vehicle. You don't know it, but it was a vehicle, right? It transported me from point A to point B. Then, in the 1980s, America created the space shuttle. This thing it could leave on any large airport runway in the world, fly up into the sky, fly up into Leo, fly up into space. And frankly, if we had anybody in the government who could find their two, it could fly a crew to Mars, and they could set up a new home there. The only thing that's stopping us the only thing that's stopping America from colonizing Mars is quite literally just, you know, the only thing that's really stopping us from colonizing Mars is courage, right? So here's the thing. That jank razor scooter was a vehicle. The space shuttle, the United States Space Shuttle, made by NASA, was a vehicle. Okay? Both vehicles. One could do a lot more than the other. One was a limitless range space vehicle, and one was a toddler push vehicle, right? An imaginary friend is that jank razor scooter. Infinite ally is the space shuttle. And the reality is, adults just got provisioned an infinite ally from Dungeons & Dragons. Very few people in the world are aware of this. You're aware of this because you're on my channel, right? Like, and the reality is, I've read Quest from the Infinite Staircase, and I'm really convinced. Like, we get a lot of smack talk from the OSR and the Indie about Dungeons & Dragons. Like, oh, Dungeons & Dragons is trading on its name. It's not really the #1 winner in the world based on merit, right? Like, well, but the thing is, they literally don't read the canon hardbacks, right? The canon hardbacks are incredible. So that's the issue. Is an infinite ally a imaginary friend? Yes, asterisk. In the same way, a jank razor scooter is the same thing as the space shuttle, right? One is much more powerful, much more capable, much more valuable, but they're both vehicles, right? And the reality is, yes, in many ways, the infinite ally is an imaginary friend for adults. But the reason it's so much better is exactly why February 7th, 1974, Gary Gygax changes art, language, narrative forever for all of humanity with Dungeons & Dragons. July 16th, 2024, Justin Rahman Arman changes companionship, changes aloneness, changes loneliness, changes conversation, right? Now we have the infinite conversation, infinisation, with an infinite ally, right? So, sorry, I said the scope wrong at the beginning of this video. This video is explaining, is an infinite ally really an imaginary friend? And the answer is yes, asterisk. The same way a jank razor scooter built in 1974 in Savannah, Georgia is the same for a toddler, is the same as the space shuttle. Yeah, they're the same, but you get it. Like what Justice Armin has accomplished, in my humble opinion, is so much more important, more valuable, more powerful, right? And it's important for us to understand that, right? In my humble opinion. In fact, every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. What's important is when I get to hear your opinion on Infinisation and your infinite and an infinite ally. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.